welcome back to the NOSA Group YouTube channel and Happy New Year. I hope you guys had an amazing, wonderful, restful holiday season and welcome into 2024, where we are going in at the first of the month throughout the entire month because we want this to be an effortlessly year for us here at the NOSA Group. So we're getting the work started right now. So let's go into our topic. But before we jump there and talk about key questions to identify quality employees during the interview, feel free. You're already here. Click the subscribe button. Come back. Hang out with us. Definitely check us out on our office hours. We had an amazing office hours today. It is scheduled every other Wednesday from 12 p.m. Eastern until about 1 p.m. Eastern. We went over a little bit today, but there was lots of amazing questions about the process, people in different stages, questions about things that may be coming down the pipeline around staffing regulations. So it was a good time had by all. So subscribe. And if you like the video at the end, go ahead and click that like button. So let's get started in our conversation. And this is a great topic to start the first of the year off with because typically this is an ongoing problem, especially at the beginning of the year when many people decide to start new careers, leave old jobs, and do something different. So some key questions to identify quality employees. And in healthcare space, it can be a little tricky to decipher what's a quality employee. Is it someone that stays long? Is it someone that impresses the client? Could it be a person that's on time? Or is it really like all three? So, in my opinion, in my experiences, it's really all three, and you kind of end up with a mixed bag and you prioritize different things for different clients. But for the most part, when you're in the hiring process, you want to make sure that you're one, creating a work culture that is comparable to the candidate that you're looking for, and had taken out just a little bit of time in your day to identify what is the ideal candidate. So we've done that here. That's one of our team building projects that we did here at the NOSA Group, but we've also done it in other places around like what's the ideal client, which I encourage you guys to spend time with. Like what makes them ideal besides the fact that they pay on time? What other qualities, what other attributes do they have that makes them, hey, that's the client for me? Are they a large client with a lot of staff needs, a small client, a niche client? So I encourage you guys to definitely use some of these tips on thinking about what your ideal client would be as well. So when you're thinking about identifying your ideal employee, a lot of times we start with the interview process. So, of course, the process does typically take place a little bit earlier than that. But at the interview stages, you want to make sure that you're asking the correct questions. So, I like to subscribe to the situational interview style as it really allows the candidate or applicant to really do more of the talking and me to do more of the listening and then of course provide follow-up questions. So it's crucial to determine whether or not the candidate would be quality through making sure that you're asking them the right questions. Through that process, you can learn a lot about their perspectives, their contributions, experiences, and skills, knowledge, and abilities. So knowing a candidate's professional trajectory really matters. So you can see that on paper, which is always nice, but having them kind of walk through their background and experience matters as far as whether or not they may be a good fit for this particular role. So you want to look through progress, any sort of issues around consistency in their positions, as well as if there's any drive or ambition where they may be going to school, furthering their education. Maybe they're looking into getting specific certifications in their specialty. So those things matter as well. Another question that I encourage people to ask is, what do they know about your company? And the reason you want to learn this is you want to know how much time have they taken, and with Google, it doesn't even take you, 5 minutes to find out who you are and what you do. And that also leads to their investment. So, like if we're a small niche boutique staffing agency, but you want to work for a large, well known staffing agency, determining like, how did you find us? And it doesn't have to be an in-depth question. It's a question I ask to clients, to applicants, employees, networking activities. How did you find us? Like, how did you connect to us, and what made you interested in that position? So, as I mentioned, here are a couple of questions that you can incorporate in your interview list. And it's around challenging questions at work and how they handled it. So, this is a question we've all heard. They're typically called problem solving or conflict resolutions types of questions. And what they're looking for, or what you should be looking for as a employer, is how the person handled the situation. So, let me give you an example. So, how did you handle a situation where the deadline for a project had passed, but you were still working on it? And some of these you guys can definitely Google. How do you handle a situation with multiple priorities? And that's a good one for healthcare because that happens a lot of times. Like, you may have a stat lab, somebody may have just fallen in a code. So you want to know their critical thinking through things of that nature. Um, Outside of the situation, so that if they're placed in a situation, they know what to do and they know how to prioritize their time. Um, some other questions would be, um, how do you handle having difficult conversations with patients or fellow employees? Others could be, what would you do in this scenario, right? And then some other good ones would be around, you know, why they're interested in working for you, but also are there any future plans or aspirations with regards to their career. So you want to kind of know, hey, are you here for the moment? Are you here for a while? What are you doing outside of work that that may tell a little bit more about why this would be a good fit. So, what skills do you consider essential for this role? So, some of that information you can definitely get from your client, but you want to kind of create a consistent process. So, some differences would be, if you have a RN and an LPN at a long-term care facility, an essential skill for the RN would probably be that they're able to go through the admission process or admitting new patients to the facility. That may not be an essential skill for a LPN. And have them talk a little bit about their experience as far as how they obtain different skills. So if they have any specialty types of skills, like, how did you go about it? How have you used it in your job? As always, a good worker is not only someone who is qualified and have the required knowledge, but also someone who knows how to use it and advance the goals of the team. And teamwork is also a good situational question to incorporate, as a big part of our business is team based. So you definitely want to find out from your candidates how they handle or manage themselves in team working environments. So here's another question. Success at work is frequently largely dependent on teamwork. A quality worker or employee fosters a positive team environment. Communication is important, and working with others is important to kind of get to that positive team environment. So I would incorporate questions around that. And that's where I was touching on before about handling conflicts, asking for help. So you want to think about instances where you can ask them questions where they can demonstrate how they've done it, as well as their capacity for collaborating and working well with others. This is a fun question because this is more about that individual's goals outside of the work environment. And it can also lead into how you can help them meet them. So, how do you stay updated on industry trends and developments? That's a great question. In that, if they have professional development goals or desires, you want to support that. And quality candidates typically do have some sort of other goals or aspirations, whether it's they're getting their certification, it could be that they're going on to further their education, they may be in nurse practitioner school, they may be getting a specific certification for their specialty. So, as a potential employer, you want to kind of have that conversation and let them know early on that you're supporting them in those efforts. And then finally, before we wrap up here, tell me about a time when you failed at something and what you learned from it. Failure is inevitable. We all have failures in our life experiences at work, personal, professional, educational. But what really matters is how we respond to it. A quality employee will show you signs of resilience. Talk about how they learn from any mistakes and how they may have used those mistakes as opportunities for growth. This question will provide insight into the candidate's self awareness and ability to adapt and improve. This next question is, what do you consider your greatest professional achievement and why? So, why questions are nice because it allows people to elaborate beyond yes or no. So, one thing that I do encourage you guys in asking questions and developing what you're looking for in a quality candidate is to stay away from those questions that say, well, how long have you been a nurse? 10 years. That doesn't give you enough information about the individual to make sure that they'll be a good fit, versus a question that may be, what was the reason, or how did you become a nurse, or what was the situation that made you decide to get into nursing? Or tell me a little bit more about your decision to become a nurse. Assessing a candidate's proudest accomplishment can reveal their values and priorities. A quality employee will likely have highlighted achievements, be willing to share them, and those achievements will align with your company's goals, values, and cultural fit. And finally, as we wrap up here, asking thoughtful and probing questions during interviews is essential. Identifying quality employees is something that you want to do, especially as a small business owner, on the front end of the process. You don't want to spend a lot of time after the fact realizing this person isn't a good fit for the organization. A couple of tips to remember is make sure that when you're asking questions, you're consistently asking the same questions. So, taking out time with your partner or your team to develop these questions is key, so that no matter who's applying for the position, they're getting the same questions. And maybe team interviewing or group interviewing will allow you to make sure that you highlight those things and document those answers. By delving into a candidate's past experiences, it really allows you to understand their skills and their mindset, and really puts you in a position to make more informed decisions about their potential fit for your team. And finally, remember the interview process is a two-way street. So you want to always encourage, support, and sometimes give a little bit of a push candidates who may be a little bit shyer or hesitant to say a little bit more beyond your traditional yes or no style questions. This allows you to evaluate whether your organization is a right fit for you and them. So use some of these questions to create a comprehensive picture for your organization to not only help you, but both parties make informed decisions and foster a successful working relationship. Thanks for hanging out with me today. As always, check out our next videos here on our channel. If you liked our content here, continue to check us out and get more information about the process of not only getting your business launched or started, because that's really the easy part, but creating a successful, sustainable business as we go into 2024. If you have any topics you want us to cover, feel free to drop them in the comments below. And finally, if you have some time, join us on one of our Facebook Lives or during office hours every other Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Goodbye.